We've been doing a series on the book of Revelation, and have you been learning something? Yeah, you've been enjoying this series? It's been great. I love diving deep into a book of the Bible, a certain portion, and just going more than a week on something and really trying to understand what it was like for the original reader, what it was like for the original writer. And this book of Revelation has so many areas that can be misunderstood. I remember growing up thinking, I don't know if I'm quite ready, if it's above my pay grade, if it's too old for me to understand all of it. And some of Revelation is very confusing. But at the end of the day, it's God speaking through his people to his people. That's what the Bible is. It is an inspired, handed down word from God, and we can take it seriously. We can take it to heart. We can know that He wants the best for us. So as we dive in today and the remainder of this series, I encourage you to give yourself fully to this series. If you're at home and you don't know what you should be reading in the week, why not read through Revelation? Why not read through these letters again? Mull over it. Listen to the podcasts that we've been doing to really kind of chew on this message that God has given us, because it's good for us today too. I'd love to pray with you, and we're going to dive in. Join me. Dear God, thank you for your word. Thank you that it is alive, and it is active, and it is your desire to speak to us. Holy Spirit, we need you now. In a world that is quick to brush over what real truth is, that is quick to tell us to be self-indulgent and live all just for our own wants and desires, we with humility give our hearts over to you right now. Ask that in these moments that we have, you would speak in a clear way that we can hear. Throughout the book of Revelation, you say, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. We're ready. We're willing to hear. Help us to understand and give us the boldness and the faith to obey you. In Jesus' name, amen. Awesome. So today we're going to be learning about the church, the letter to the church in Sardis. You can turn to Revelation chapter 3, verse 1. Revelation chapter 3, verse 1. So John was exiled on the island of Patmos. Sounds like, hey, on a desert island, deserted on a desert island. What a great way. Like ministry doesn't sound that bad, just island life. But he was actually exiled. He lived the remainder of his days alone and writing, but he made his time effective. Let's read. Chapter 3, verse 1 says, to the angel of the church in Sardis, write. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. This one is a bit of a punch in the face, okay? It's not like a really like a touchy-feely love letter that you might expect, okay? It's fairly abrupt. Last week we said like speaking like really directly. This is another direct letter. Says, these are the words of him who holds the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. I know your deeds. You have a reputation of being alive, but wait for it. You are dead. Wake up, strengthen what remains and is about to die, for I have not found your deeds complete in the sight of my God. Remember, therefore, what you have received and heard. Obey it. And repent, for if you do not wake up, I will come like a thief, and you will not know at what time I will come to you. Yet you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes. You got that going for you, Sardis. There's a few people who haven't just completely ruined themselves. They will walk with me dressed in white, for they are worthy. He who overcomes will, like them, be dressed in white. I will never blot out his name from the book of life, but will acknowledge his name before my Father and his angels. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Pretty direct. He's saying you got a reputation of being alive, of looking great, but you're actually pretty dead. This letter to me, it feels kind of like a doctor with really poor bedside manner. He's like crouching by the bed, and it's like, yeah, you look, you think you're alive, but you're dying. you're dying. You better get up and awaken and strengthen the little bit of you that's still alive. It's an interesting book. So Sardis, a little bit of context for you. So Sardis is a church that is, or a city that is placed on this citadel. It's like on a bit of a mountain top, this kind of podium high above sea level. Sardis was a wealthy city. It was known for some gold deposits in a river nearby. So there was like this wealth in the city. They looked great. They were in this kind of fortified, it seemed to be impenetrable kind of city up top. Although it had been attacked a number of times, but it had this appearance of great strength and wealth. Sardis sounds to me like a city that has some old money. You know, have you ever been in a neighborhood? I live in a neighborhood that some people say, oh, there's like some old money in that city. And you can tell. Now, I came there recently, so I did not bring any of the old money with me. And it's very apparent when you see the cars that people drive in this old money and their well-manicured lawns that have been cared for. Somebody's sitting on a stool with a spoon picking out every weed at one time, and I just grabbed the weed eater like, just plow through with my dented car. Everyone's driving their G-classes and Mercedes and Audis and everything nice. But there's some old money to it, okay? These houses, they're century homes, they're beautiful. They have this appearance of, wow, this has been around a long time. They're successful. They stood the test of time. Sardis was this city that had wealth. Now, some historians say that at the time of this letter, the money had kind of dried up from the river. It wasn't that they were continuously mining gold all the way, but they had built up some stock. History says there was an earthquake that decimated the city, but they were able to rebuild it. And the church of Sardis was they would have been quite affluent as well. They appeared good. They appeared prosperous. And John is writing to them saying, reputation is not everything. Reputation is important. Now, reputation is important. Now, John didn't say reputation doesn't matter. Actually, the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 1 says this: there's a good reputation is better than fine perfume. That's kind of an interesting way of putting it, right? You know, you're in a room and you can smell when someone walks in, and you can probably pretty quickly identify that smells like this type of person. I mean, the perfume of a 70-year-old woman smells different from a grade 6 boy. Axe smells a little different, right? I've taught in a lot of junior high classrooms, and you can tell when PE happens, the guys that remembered to put their axe on and the guys who did not put anything on. There's a smell. There's an aura that walks into the room. There's a reputation that comes in. My daughter Ada came into the room the other day, and she had just been sampling some perfume at the mall. And she came walking in, and I smelled her before I even saw her. And I said, oh, someone's wearing something. And she's like, is it giving success, or is it giving youthfulness? What is it? What are you getting from this? And we had this moment of curating and trying to identify the different notes of what her reputation was telling me with her perfume. Reputation does matter. Now, I grew up in a home that I was very proud of the family I came from. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. Actually, a couple of us just before the service, we were talking about, where do you fall in the birth order? Oh, you're the youngest. Oh, you're the middle. Or there's difference. There's reputation matters. I care about my last name. I care about what people think of when they hear me, right? It's different. If you say, have you been with somebody who maybe says, hi, my name is Joel, or my name is Joel Reimer. I'm expecting that you might know something about me depending on my name. And I care about it. I tell my kids when we're at home or when we're doing work together, I say, hey, Reimers are this type of person. This is the type of reputation I want you to have, and I want you to expect that other people will know about you. It matters. Now, reputation can be good or it can be bad, right? You maybe are I mean, so I'm a teacher as well, and I have been in many rooms of groups of teachers where they're saying, oh, there's this student who's coming. Yeah, I taught their older brother. With eyebrows raised, like, look out. Or like, but they're, yeah, you maybe taught them, but they're different, right? Reputation can be good. It can be bad. But one thing is reputation, it has a shelf life. Okay, there's an end point where reputation can't do any kind of work for you. Reputation simply maybe gets your foot in the door. Maybe you've handed in a great resume that has a good referral that you're like, or it comes from, you have a degree from a prominent school, or you have success with a startup that is taken off and that's well known, and somebody's, oh, you're with them. Oh, amazing. And that can maybe get you in the door, but it won't do the work for you, right? It would be crazy to think of dressing up, looking great, smelling good like this. Ecclesiastes says it's like a fine perfume. You walk in, you smell great on your first date, and you sit down and have zero social skills. Like, it's the smell isn't going to get you very far. It's more like I've been lied to. Your reputation, you came across one way, or maybe you've been set up on a blind date, and you come in walking in and say, you do not look like what your good friend, who is also my good friend, who I trusted, and they have a reputation of being truthful, has said, right? Hopefully you're not the person on the other end who, anyway, I'll leave that with them. But reputation matters, but it will only go so far, okay? And the writer John is telling this church of Sardis that your reputation matters, but you are not living up to your reputation. You're seen as something who maybe really delivers, but you are falling short. Man, I hate the moments when I have overpromised and underdelivered. I don't want to be that type of Christian. I don't want to stand before God with a reputation of, oh yeah, you grew up around the church. You kind of know how things go. You come from a good line of faithful, Bible-believing Christians, and you hope that would make all the difference. I think that there are some of us who are, we all need to take a good hard look at our lives and think, at one point when I stand before God, have I been coasting? Have I been living on my reputation? Have I been living on the interest of what maybe my parents did? Have I grown up in church? So yeah, I know it. I've been around it. I kind of absorbed Christianity. I got a couple points in with the big guy upstairs that I can kind of live how I want because I've been around it enough that'll get me through for a while. I think this is an important encouragement and real harsh challenge to us that we take seriously what the Bible is saying and calling us to beyond a reputation, but to some action. The Bible is not a nice book, because truth causes disruption. Okay, because we're sinful. And we want to do things the way we want. And when we're confronted with truth, it is offensive. Truth causes us to make some decisions. There's a writer who spoke of the Church of Sardis. He says, provocatively calls the Church of Sardis the perfect example of inoffensive Christianity. That is not what I want to be called. You're just an inoffensive Christian. You just accept everything, nothing. You don't bother anybody. Now, am I going out to try to cause fights? No, I'm not. But I don't want to be known as somebody who has just sort of blended in and been a chameleon Christian and not caused anyone to stop and think and act differently. I'd be a horrible father if I let my kids do whatever they wanted. In the same way, as we're following the Bible, there are going to be moments that we have to change the direction. So the Church of Sardis, what was their big problem? Their big problem was that they were apathetic. Okay, they were complacent. Now, complacency is different from contentment. Okay, complacency or contentment rather, it is accepting whatever you have and making the best of it, and it is being grateful living with a heart of generosity. Complacency is whatever you have, you're just sort of bleh. Just sort of not moving, sort of stagnant. Maybe the difference would be like seeing a stagnant pond compared to a river. This pond with growing algae on the top and flies buzzing around it, this complacency. And the writer John is calling the Church of Sardis and us out of complacency because he says, wake up. You're almost dead. You think you look great? God says, I know your deeds. You're not all that great. You've come in, maybe he's saying like, oh, you think because you were around or you were around the teaching of Paul and you maybe have a little bit of a resume, you have a name behind you, you think that's enough. It's really not. And that's one of the beautiful things about God being a relational God. He treats each one of us exactly custom fit to how we need to hear him in order to bring him glory. And John is telling this church, you got to wake up. Now, I can relate. I think there have been moments in my life where I have been complacent, where I've been sleepy, where I have been maybe worked really hard in one way and lacked in my responsibilities in other ways. Can you relate? Yeah. Maybe anybody get a little bit tired? We're driving at the wheel, right? Anybody in the middle of writing a text? And you doze off and you realize, I'm glad I didn't send that. There were 300 spaces between that letter and that letter, right? Have you dozed off before? I've dozed off maybe figuratively and literally. Now, I'm a prolific sleepwalker in my family. I have a reputation of sleep talking and sleepwalking, and man, I have a very, very deep bag of stories that I could bring out today and tell all of the different ways. I have so many stories. My wife, Brandy, said, please let me come up and tell a story. Please let me do that. I'm not going to let her. But I will tell maybe one or two, just in a moment of self-deprecation, hoping that you can relate in some way. But sleepwalkers have no direction. And when I say that, I mean no clarity, no purpose. There's a disorientation to a way a sleepwalker lives. And John is calling these Church of Sardis kind of like you're kind of walking in your sleep. You're stumbling around almost like the half-dead zombie Christians. You look like a person. You look like a believer. You're saying the right things. You come from a good place. You're not doing anything really bad. You're not idol worshiping. You're not sacrificing your kids. You're not involved in intense sexual immorality, as some of the churches in that time really were known for. Like, there is chaos over there. What's happening? We got to, this is an emergency. But sometimes it's that slow fade. That into a trance. You know, some of my kids, actually many of my kids, often will sleep with their eyes just almost a little bit open. And when you walk up, when you see them, are they? Yeah, they are. And it's like, and they're sleeping with their eyes just slightly open. That's kind of the Church of Sardis. It's a bit of a picture of they look alive. Hello? Oh, you're barely there. And he's saying, wake up. You got to wake up. So how do we wake up? What? Let's be really clear. Jesus is saying you are almost dead, and that is bad news. Okay, this is serious, and we can apply this to us today. So how do we? Because remember, John is saying your deeds aren't complete. That's the thing, and he's saying you need to strengthen what is still remaining. Okay, so how do we strengthen this? How do we wake up? Because it's a bit of an abstract statement, right? Wake up. Okay, what does that actually mean? I have a couple things that I would like to draw your attention to, challenge you with, and hopefully we can leave today with a bit of a to-do list to check our hearts. First thing is, we need to shift and recognize that repetition is greater than reputation. Okay? Repetition is greater than reputation. What do I mean by that? I mean, you got to get moving. You just got to commit to start acting and moving. You need something to wake up for every day. Maybe, have you ever been in a position where you're like, I don't even want to go to work tomorrow? Anybody? Yeah? I don't even, just more of the same. More of the same thing. Nothing exciting, nothing different. We need something to get up for. I remember when I was younger, man, there's a few times in the year you get really excited. Maybe Christmas morning, something's going to be different. There's an excitement. I can hardly even sleep. I'm so excited for tomorrow, right? Maybe it's your birthday. Maybe it's going on a family holiday. We need, as Christians, something to get us out of bed every day. And we just have to commit to that schedule of starting to do something, whether that is reading the Word, whether that is listening to some worship music first thing in the morning, whether it is committing, like this season, I'm going to go to church every weekend. Every weekend that I'm around, I'm going to go to church. Maybe that's not something that you've been a part of. Maybe it's joining a small group, or maybe it's something like that. Committing to repetition, you got to get those reps in, right? You got to start acting and moving, because that's going to give you a little bit of direction. 1 Thessalonians, Paul says to the church, the one who's not willing to work shouldn't eat. That's pretty harsh, but it's like you got to pull your weight. I've heard somebody speak of the church as saying the Church of Christ is like it's a battleship. It's not a cruise ship. Everybody has a job, right? And it may be steering the ship. It may be washing the deck. It may be tying ropes. It may be whatever it is. It might be. I'm going to put this little plug in right now. We just had team night, okay? Team night was this last week on Thursday. We have team night first Thursday of every month, and that's for anyone on team. Team does not just involve people on the stage. It involves people greeting out at the front, helping at the connect table, serving coffees. We have a big need for people serving in kids ministry. We need people who care about showing up and teaching kids and hanging out with kids. Because as our church grows, we're going to have more families, and families are growing here, and God has been so gracious to us to fill our church with all types of different people. We need some people serving there. There's a spot for you to find your fit working on team. Got to commit to getting some reps in. And as we have purpose, it pushes us It pushes us in the right direction. You know who does not walk with purpose? A sleepwalker. And I could speak of a very clear example from my own personal life of that. Okay, so we were first married. Brandy and I were first married. A couple months in, we just graduated college, and I was excited to start this new life as the head of my home. And one thing I didn't really tell my bride at that time was that I was a sleepwalker and a sleep talker. I grew up sleepwalking and sleep talking. Justin has many stories. We shared a room all of our life. He would even get to the point where he'd ask me, hey, are you still awake? Yeah, I'm awake. I wasn't awake. I was fully asleep. He had to get to the point where he would actually ask me to recite the alphabet. Because that would be the tell if I was sleeping. You know what? I actually learned how to say the ABCs in my sleep, apparently. Because he was like, hey, remember what we were talking about last night? I'm like, I have zero memory of that, man. He's like, I asked you to say the ABCs. You didn't. Well, thank you, I guess. That one's for free. Okay, so my wife and I are first married. I had just started a new job delivering exercise equipment. It wasn't anything flashy or fancy, but it was paying some bills, and we were doing bivocational ministry. Brandy was working in a counseling office. I was delivering treadmills and elliptical trainers and home gyms and driving all over the city, and we're doing life together. We're working at our church, and it was amazing. But it was a couple months in, and I remember waking up very abruptly one evening. It was middle of the night. We were living in our very small one-bedroom apartment, and I woke up. I was struggling, and in my sleep, I was dreaming I was actually moving a treadmill. Okay? In reality, I was not moving a treadmill. Brandy woke me up. She's like, Joel, what are you doing? Joel, what are you doing? Go back to bed. And I was struggling. I was saying, I just have to get this treadmill out the window. And we're on the second floor in an apartment. And she's like, Joel, there's no treadmill. We're on the second floor. She's like, the truck is waiting outside. Joel, there's no truck. And at this point, she's laughing at me. And it's fair. But in that moment, I was so convinced this has to happen. And slowly, the lights came on. And it's kind of that, where am I? What am I? I was so passionately involved with this task that is actually nothing in my hands. And I slowly closed the window. And now, if you're like me and you're a sleepwalker, you don't admit the person, say, sorry, oh yeah, right, I was sleepwalking. It's embarrassing. I came to, and I kind of did the long walk of shame across the bedroom, back to the bed on my side, pulled the covers back. She's sitting up in bed by this point, snickering away. I laid in bed, grabbed the blankets, and shamefully rolled my back to her. And she's like, are you a little bit mad at me? Because she was laughing at me. I was like, well, it's really disorienting, okay? The Church of Sardis was a sleepwalking, dying church that had no focus, no direction. And Jesus was saying to them, you know what? You think that you're so focused. You think, hey, this is the good life. We're living easy. We got all the things we need. But they had forgot what they were supposed to be doing. And you and I need to take a long, hard look at ourselves and think, are there moments in my life where I have just allowed my reputation to be more important than my repetition? Have I put in too many cheat days on the calendar just because, like, no, I'm good. I'm living off interest. It's okay. We got to get moving. We got to commit to waking up. That word constant, or that word strengthen that he says, it just means constant. It means to constantly start moving, start working, start doing something, okay? And sometimes it's that, many people say it's that journey, getting your shoes on and getting out the door, that you've won half the battle, to doing that run, to getting fit, to starting exercise. It's like, just got to commit to getting out of bed, putting those shoes on. Point number 2. John is, I believe, telling us that we need to gain the mindset of receiving equals obeying. Receiving equals obeying. If we as Christians can say, you know what, I trust God enough, I'm going to give you this, Lord, that if I hear you speak, I'll run to obedience. They had forgotten what they had been told. Now, John says this. He says in verse number 3, he says, remember therefore what you have received and heard. So they had heard the gospel. They knew it. It wasn't a matter of them not knowing what they were supposed to do. But he says, obey it and repent. But if you do not wake up, I will come like a thief, and you'll not know at what time I come to you. He's saying, you already know what to do, okay? You've heard this. You know. Just do it. Just do it. And maybe for you today, there's something in your life that you've been avoiding doing. Maybe it's something to do with a relationship that you're like, God's saying this. I know, but it's like, just do it. Just trust the Bible enough that he actually cares for you, that he actually died for you, that he loves you enough, that he doesn't want you to stay in your stagnant puddle. He wants you to move. He wants you to experience joy and life. And that rush of stepping out in faith and acting, just do it. What's holding you back? Maybe fear is holding you back. Maybe fear of missing out is holding you back from committing to something. Maybe it's within your job that you're needing to take an integral stand on something. I'm not sure. You know what it is, and I hope that you're considering and thinking through, what is it that God is asking me to do? Some of us have not put ourselves in a position to receive because we know obedience needs to follow, and we're not committed. We're not ready to say, yeah, I'm ready to obey. So I'd rather just keep my ears plugged for a little while longer. Live this season for me for a while, and then I'll eventually come around to obedience. Commit to obeying, receiving, and obeying. Put yourself in that position that's ready to receive. One thing we do at Vivid Church is a course called Freedom. So Freedom is You can see the picture up here. Freedom is a small group that meets every Sunday. We ran it in the spring, and we're running it again in the fall. It is fantastic, and it is one of those ways that's really practical when you say, hey, how do I put myself in a position to receive? I mean, accountability, putting yourself in a room with other Christians or other people who are seeking faith that are like trying to work this faith out, understand who God is, understand how to forgive yourself, maybe forgive the people who have hurt you in the past, understand how to like get past. It's like, I'm triggered, I have trauma, I have these things. Let's figure out why. And let's lovingly ask God to help us and then do what he says. So freedom is a way that is really practical. It was fantastic. Probably one of my top 2 or 3 favorite small group experiences I've ever been a part of. And I've been in church my whole life. I can't highly recommend it enough. So if you would like to kind of jumpstart your faith and say, I'm feeling stagnant, I feel stuck, I kind of have hit a wall, a plateau, I need something to shake it up. It's a 12-week course. It's not a high commitment, but it is just some consistency. Let's get into a habit of receiving and quickly responding. And we have seen, man, so much growth through the people who have gone through that program. So you can sign up, vivid.church/freedom, or you can speak to somebody at the Connect table after. They'd be happy to help you. But put yourself in that position to receive, and when you receive, make it a knee-jerk reaction that I will just obey. I'm just going to try this. I'm going to have enough faith in God, kind of like Peter in the boat. He sees Jesus walking, and he's like, is that you, Lord? Yeah, it's me. Well, if it's you, just tell me, and I will come to you. Yeah, it's me, Peter, come. Okay, Jesus said it, I'll just do it. Okay, let's step out of that boat. Let's step out of that proverbial place in your life and have some faith in Jesus and see what he wants to do. Is that good? Awesome. Last point, just in wrapping this up. There is a why in all of this. Okay? And lastly, John doesn't want us to forget our eternal reward. Because that's why we're doing this. Vivid Church exists to shine the light of Jesus' life for all to see. Every age, every nation, every person to see who Jesus really is. Why? Because we think that Jesus changes lives. He's changed my life. He's transformed me from somebody who would just be living all for myself to someone who wants to see his kingdom come here on earth. There is an eternal reward waiting for those who faithfully follow Jesus. There's also eternal punishment for those who reject him. And the Bible is really clear on that. But Jesus gives so many chances, and he gives so much grace, and he's saying, I literally want to endorse you in front of God and all of the angels and all of creation. Check this out in verse 4. Yet you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes. They will walk with me dressed in white, for they're worthy. To be called worthy by the Son of God? Are you kidding me? He who overcomes, what is overcoming? Getting over yourself, committing to this journey of trusting God. Is it perfection? No, it's not, because none of us are perfect, but it's that trust in God. Leaving what has tied us up and distracted us, and what maybe the bad reputation that we've just said, I guess I'm just a loser. I guess that's all I'll amount to. No, I guess I'm just horrible with my money. I guess I don't know how to do relationships. That's just me. Everyone knows me as a liar. Everyone knows me as this. I guess that's just me. No, he's saying, no, get over your old reputation. Get over yourself and come to me. Jesus says this. He says, those who overcome will be dressed in white. I will never blot out his name from the book of life. That book of life was mentioned first in Exodus, talking about people who have citizenship. And it was a common practice that if you had been executed from citizenship, if you've been taken out of that, you'd actually blot their name out. They have no place in that kingdom. And Jesus is saying, if you commit to this, if you commit to waking up I'm never going to blot you out. And I'm going to actually allow you to wear this robe of white that when you stand before God the Father at Judgment Day, he's going to say, yeah, he's good. She's good. I got them. I've covered them. They're worthy. I can't think of a greater exit from this life into eternity to have God, have Jesus, the one who died for you and me, say, yeah, they get it. And I'm covering them. I've made them pure and holy, and they get, they're endorsed. He wants to do that for you today. He has reward for you. Some business owners, there's an owner that coined the phrase, your white hot why. Why do you do what you do? You have to have a why. You have to have that thing that gets you up, that keeps you pushing through that 10,000 plus hours of experience until you've mastered and gained that skill. Jesus is saying, your white hot why is me. Your white hot why is remembering that this life, this 30, 40, 60, 70, 90 years that you have here on earth is not everything. This is practice for eternity. And if you would come to me, if you would wake up, I'm going to make your eternity great. And he wants that for you, and he wants that for me. And all we have to do is commit to waking up.